Hi there. In a world where nothing is certain, that means anything is possible, right? If you want to fulfill your dreams and desires, you are in the right place. You absolutely can have a life of happiness. Everyone deserves an abundance of love, laughter, success, health, and wealth. I'm Tara Chadzakis, and you're listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. The show that brings you meditation, mindset, and motivation. So start by giving yourself permission to be awesome. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi there, and welcome to this week's episode of Happy, Inspired, Motivated. Now, today I am joined by Terry Tucker. Now, Terry has been an NCAA Division I college basketball player, which actually doesn't mean very much to me because I'm in the UK, but I know what basketball is, so I presume he played basketball in college. He's also a Citadel cadet, a marketing executive, a hospital administrator, and an undercover narcotics investigator. Crikey. And a SWAT team hostage negotiator. Ooh, this is getting juicy, isn't it? And he is a high school basketball coach, a business owner, a motivational speaker and author, and also a cancer warrior. Crikey, man, this guy has a lot going on. Now, Terry is married and he and his wife have lived all over the US, and currently they're in Colorado with their terrier called Maggie. In 2019, Terry started a website which is called Motivational Check to help others find and lead their uncommon and extraordinary life. So let's meet Terry. Hi, Terry.
Tara?
Yeah, hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much.
Good. I've just been reading a bit of an intro for you. I've just been given an intro and I was like, oh my goodness, this guy, you've got so much going on. What the heck?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like one of these days I'll figure out what I'm going to do with my life. You know, I mean, I always joke about that because that's one thing that people always say. It's like, gosh, you've done this or you've had all these different jobs. And I kind of feel bad when people say that. It's kind of like, well, yeah, I should have stuck with one thing, I guess.
No, my goodness. No, that's great. I mean, think of all the insights you've got that other people don't have. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah. No, definitely not. I don't think you should be sticking to one thing whatsoever. I mean, who's to say that you have to do the same thing all your life? You know, when you grow and you change, there's other stuff that you've got that you want to find out about and that you have skills in, which is so cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, with each new job is a different skill set and a different learning curve and everything like that. So it's been, some of them have been a lot of fun. Some of them, you know, were just paychecks, to be honest with you. So,
yeah.
You know, how about yourself? I read a little bit about you and you seem to be fairly worldly yourself.
Well, I don't know about worldly, but okay. Yeah, so I help women leave their 9 to 5 and move into entrepreneurship, which I absolutely love. So working with mindset and limiting beliefs and law of attraction and manifesting and all the exciting things like that. It's just,
sure.
Yeah, it's great. So I really love it.
Well, that's great. And you've got a family as well, right?
I've got 3 daughters. Yeah, we live on the Isle of Wight, which is this tiny, tiny island off the south coast of the UK.
Okay.
So we've lived here for nearly 8 years.
Wow. That's nice. Right. I've got, my wife and I have 1 daughter. So we not 3. I don't know if I can handle 3. 1 was hard enough. So.
Do you know, I think 3 is easier because they take care of themselves because they entertain themselves. When you've got 1, you've got to be their playmate all the time. But
you know, that's true. And I, you know, the fact that we just had the 1 child, and I mean, I remember when the doctor was like, do you want to know what it is? And we were kind of like, sure. And it's like, well, you know, you should buy pink. And I was like, oh, no. You need to keep that in there until it's done. I was like, I have 2 brothers. I don't have any sisters. I'm like, a girl? I have no idea what to do raising a girl, but she and I are kind of best friends and always have been.
That's really cool.
It is.
Well, you see, I was an only child, so I didn't know what to do with either sex.
I raised our daughter kind of like I would have raised a son. You know, I mean, she was big into sports and things like that. And so, I mean, she's definitely a girly girl, but she can hold her own against most guys. So
bless her. Well, yeah. So you were into sports as well. I see you did college basketball. I did say in the introduction, I'm not really sure what all that stuff means because I know what basketball is. I mean, I'm not that crazy, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's different in the US to the UK. So I'm presuming you started out in college basketball. Is that what you mean?
Yes, I did. So in the US, they kind of break down colleges into, for basketball, Division I, which are the big schools, the higher schools,
Okay.
Division II and Division III. And Division III are the smaller schools. They don't offer athletic scholarships in any way. So
All right, yeah.
I was fortunate enough, despite having 3 knee surgeries in high school, to actually play on that Division I level.
That's excellent. Well done.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Well, yeah, I mean, with knee surgery as well, I'm quite surprised. So you must have been very, very good at what you did.
And I was, but there was a whole mind thing where when I had knee surgery, and literally I missed almost an entire year in high school basketball because of multiple knee surgeries.
Yeah.
In my own head, I was kind of like this, like, you're not that good anymore. Other people have surpassed you. And it took a lot to kind of get out of my, really get out of my way and say, yeah, you're still good. You can still play at this level. So I've definitely been in my head many times where I shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really good for somebody at that age as well, because it usually takes somebody like years to realize how they're talking to themselves. So I think you were quite ahead of your time, really, with that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was very fortunate, and I look back now on, like, I spent an entire summer in a cast from my hip to my ankle after my second knee surgery. They don't do that stuff anymore. They get into rehab right away. When you have surgery. I had actually a woman who played on, when I coached high school basketball. She just had an ACL surgery, and she had it like on Friday, and on Monday she was in physical therapy. So they just don't do the things today that they did back then. Oh, you need rest. I didn't need rest. I mean, when they cut that cast off, my leg looked like something out of a concentration camp. I mean, it just atrophied and no muscle. And it was like, took me a while to build that back. So, but yeah.
Cool. So then it says you were a Citadel cadet, but I don't know what that is.
So the Citadel is, when I was there, it was an all-male military school.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're familiar. I'm sure the UK has, their equivalent of West Point or the Naval Academy or something like that.
Yeah, we have those kind of things. Yeah.
So that was kind of what the Citadel was. It was a military school.
Okay. Is that where you did your SWAT team hostage negotiator?
No, I did that kind of later in life. When I was in my 30s, I became a policeman. And when I was when I was a police officer, our police department had a SWAT team. And that's part of the SWAT team was the tactical side, which was, all the guys with the guns and all that stuff. And then there were the negotiators, and that's what I did. And so a lot of times I would be talking to somebody who, obviously, if you were talking to me, you were probably having the worst day of your life. But I may be.
I'm not, though. It's fine.
No, not in this case. Back then we didn't see the person. It was kind of done over the phone.
Yeah.
Which, for a policeman, we get a lot of clues from how people act. How when we're talking to them and stuff. And when you don't have the person in front of you, it makes it much more difficult to try to figure out what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing. And, so we have to kind of figure things out based on what people are saying, what they're not saying, and how they're saying it. So I loved it. Right. It was a lot of fun. It was, they didn't always end well, but it was great to try to talk people to a place where they realized that this was not a solution, but sometimes you were successful. Sometimes you weren't.
Yeah, well, like we said, it's, you get different skill sets, don't you? And that's something that you build. You probably came through that with your working with students and with, when you were in the police as well. So you got all those extra skills that help to get you to that place, which is great. And you've obviously got a very motivated mindset and quite a positive mindset as well, which is always really helpful. So, I mean, and you do motivational speaking as well now, don't you? I guess the result of the back of all that kind of the things that you've been through, and I know you're a cancer survivor as well, so you've got a lot of good that you can do in the world, and a lot of impact that you can share with other people.
Yeah, so some people will call that baggage, you know.
We've all got baggage, Terry.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, I've had a lot of opportunity to do things, and I think part of what made me successful as a negotiator was I was older. You know, I mean, I was probably in my 40s when I was doing that. So you're right. I had some life experience that I could bring to the table to kind of help people see that this wasn't a good solution for you. There are other things that we can do and that. So, yeah, I mean, I have done a lot of things, and, for the last 9 years, it seems it's all been cancer related, but I'm still here and I'm still plucking away. So,
yeah, it's great. I mean, so you've come out the other side, and I'm presuming you're all clear and everything's good.
Actually, no, I'm probably dying, to be honest with you. I have, last year, I had a tumor in my ankle that grew. It was undiagnosed. It grew large enough and it shattered my shin bone. And I had to have my leg amputated above the knee. Okay. And testing for that found that I had multiple tumors in my lungs. So I've been undergoing a trial, a clinical trial drug for those tumors. Now, the trial has been, for me, somewhat successful. The tumors have shrunk by 21%. Okay. My doctor's very optimistic, and he's just put me on another drug with the trial drug to hopefully shrink those tumors even more. But he's not terribly optimistic about my long-term future. But, I don't worry about that. I always tell people, that decision way above my pay grade. I mean, nobody.
Way above the doctor's pay grade as well, actually.
Oh, it is. It is. And it doesn't scare me. It doesn't frighten me because I think I really have, kind of like you said, I've lived, found my purpose, and I lived it. And so when you do that, I think it's more comforting when you come to the end of your life that I did what I was supposed to do while I was here. Now it's time to move on to whatever's beyond this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're still here, like you said. So there's no way of knowing when you're not going to be here. I mean, for any of us. So, it doesn't matter whether or not you've been diagnosed with cancer or whether you're just walking down the street. You have no idea. And that's why it's so important to find your passion and live with that passion, and and make the most of how much time you have here, because you don't know how long that's going to be. And there's nothing worse, is there, than regret and looking back saying, if only I had.
Well, and that's there's that old saying about everybody dies, but not everybody really lives.
Exactly.
And I want to be, and I feel I am in that category of I have lived. I've lived a good life. I've sought out my purpose. I found it. I lived it. And now I'm coming to the end of my life, and we're all going to die. So, I mean, I think if you live that purpose, dying doesn't hold that kind of fear that it does for a lot of people.
So you've got the website Motivational Check. So that, I'm presuming that is now your main focus, your main purpose. And so first of all, what do you do on the website? What's it all about?
So Motivational Check was a phrase that when I was in the police academy, when I was learning to be a police officer, that any one of us, there were 50 of us in our class, any one of us could yell out at any time if we were having a tough day. I mean, part of learning to be a cop is classroom work, learning laws and what you're allowed to do and you can't do and things like that. Yeah. Another part of it is the physical tactics that you learn to defend yourself and things like that. And we had a very intense defensive tactics instructor. And, there were times where you were just beat and you couldn't, you didn't think you could go on. And so you could yell out 80 or Motivational Check. And we were the 84th recruit class. And so we would respond as a class with 84, like our class number, just to let the person know that, hey, you're not alone. We're all hurting. We're all in this together. Don't quit. Don't give up. And so when I was thinking about putting together a blog, which is really what it is, that name kind of stuck in my head. So that's where the title Motivational Check came from. And really all I want to do is give people a quick hit of motivation or inspiration. So every day I post a thought for the day. Every Monday I post a Monday morning motivational message, which sometimes it's yeah, it is. That's why, I don't drink when I do these because I could absolutely not say that if I did. So it's a story or a video or something like that, but they're always short, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, because I know people are busy. You just go on, you get a quick shot of motivation or inspiration, and you move on with your day. Mm-hmm. So that was really my only purpose for doing that. And then last year, I ended up writing a book. Coincidentally, I wrote the book literally between the time that I had my leg amputated in April and the time I started my chemotherapy for the tumors in my lungs. So it was about a 3-month span of writing this book. And I've, it's my first book. I've never written a book before. So that was certainly something that I never expected, but that's kind of how that came about.
And what's your book? Is your book about your journey, or is it related to your illness, or what is it about?
Yes.
Yes to all of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's called Sustainable Excellence, the 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. Ooh, and it was really a book born out of a conversation that I had with that former player that I told you about who had torn her ACL. She came to Colorado, where my wife and I live, with her boyfriend after college. And we'd had dinner, and I said, I'm really kind of excited to watch you kind of find and live your purpose. And she got real quiet, and she was like, well, Coach, what do you think my purpose is? And I said, I don't know what your purpose is. That's what your life should be about. And so there was that conversation. And then I had somebody who contacted me through LinkedIn who wanted to know what I thought were the most important ideas, thoughts, whatever that he should learn to not only be successful in his job or in business, but in life. And, I thought about that for a while. I didn't want to give him the classic, work hard, get up early, that kind of stuff. I kind of wanted to go deeper. And so I started writing stuff down and literally, eventually I had kind of these 10 ideas or thoughts. And it was like, well, I've got a life story about that, or I know somebody who has a life story about that. And I put those down on paper and started to fill in underneath them with these life stories. And that's kind of how the book came about.
Excellent. Oh, that's really cool. So you're helping people with their motivation on your website and your book. Has it been released, your book, now then?
It was released in October of last year. And, it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Apple iBooks and all that kind of stuff. And, it's funny. I was, when it was first released, I was all about selling the book. I got to get out there and sell the book. And I had an individual from the UK, a best-selling author, and he said, you're approaching this the wrong way. He said, you're not in the business of selling books. You're in the business of helping people. And if you spend your time helping people, the books will sell themselves. And it was really, for me, kind of a kick in the face. It was kind of a wake-up call. It's like, yeah, he's right. I didn't write this book to be famous or to make money or anything like that. I wrote it to help people. And yet I was so focused on selling the book that I kind of got away from the purpose of the book. So if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just, can I use that, as you say, to kind of motivate or inspire or help others?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, the whole point of whatever people do, usually it's to help somebody else, whether that's, if you're a baker, you're helping somebody by feeding them. If you're a policeman, you're protecting them, or whatever it is, you're doing something for other people. So you're not ever doing anything just for yourself. And the more that you're helping people, then they're going to find your message. And like you say, you're not meant to be selling the book, you're meant to be helping people, and that's going to come through and people will find you. It's like with this podcast, people find it at the right time, and they find it when they need to hear a certain message. And that's how the universe works. It brings you the message that you need to hear at the time, just like your book. That's really
absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think whatever, God, the universe, mother, whatever you want to say, puts people or things in your path, and it's your choice whether you want to, accept them and move forward or deny them and go in another direction. So, but I totally agree with you. We have a lot of things put in our path that sometimes I think we don't realize that they were there for a reason.
No, exactly. And sometimes it gets to the point that the universe keeps putting stuff in your path. And if you keep ignoring it, it's going to come to a point. It's like, just hold on a minute. Now you've got to listen, and doing something really major in your life just to make you wake up. It's crazy, but it does. And because we need to hear sometimes, and we don't pay attention to intuition or trust feelings in ourselves, we tend to trust other people more and their opinions. And
I agree.
That's not that doesn't help us grow or help us in our life purpose at all.
No, it doesn't. And, and it's funny because I really, I wrote the book, but I always tell people, I really believe it was inspired by God. I really kind of feel that God was kind of like, here, just sit down at this computer and just, whatever I put in your brain, get down here on paper and stuff like that. And because like I said, I've never written a book before or anything like that. I mean, it's, and then all of a sudden have it, you're like, how did that happen? And literally in like 3 months, it was fairly quick in terms of writing it. And like I said, I wrote it, but I think it was inspired by something much bigger than me.
And it took you, I know it sounds crazy, but it took you losing half your leg to have the time or be able to find the time to sit down and write the book.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that was like your call. Yeah. Okay. He's not going to stop. I know it sounds really harsh, but he's going to lose half his leg. So he has to sit down and write it, because it could have been a higher purpose that one person needed to hear your message, and that would make a huge difference in their life. And that's all it takes, isn't it? One person at a time.
Exactly. And that's, before I lost my leg, I lost my foot. And I remember after I had my foot amputated, I remember laying in bed, kind of like looking at the ceiling saying, okay, now what? Where do I go from here? What do you want me to do? And people kept suggesting, you should write a blog, or you should, put a site together. And I'm old enough that I can barely turn my cell phone on in the morning. So, I mean, putting a blog or something like that together was incredibly daunting. I mean, it was 4 pages, and it took me 4 months. My 24-year-old daughter could have done it in about 10 minutes. But I was, I'd read something. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I'd have to go research it, and then come back, and then, oh, I don't know what that is. Now I got to go look that up. So kind of like what we were talking before, something gets put in your path and you're like, yeah, I should probably explore this. And there's an old joke that says, when we talk to God, it's called prayer. When God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of what I was hoping for. I was kind of hoping that I'd hear the voice and, this is what you're going to do. And it doesn't happen that way, as but it happens in a way where people, get in front of you and make suggestions and keep making them. And, like I said, if you're going to deny them, like, sooner or later, somebody will hit you right in the mouth with one. And it's like, no, dummy, this is what you're supposed to do. Go that route. To me. Exactly.
Yeah, these divine downloads that you've been having for like the past 5 years. When are you going to start listening to them? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you found your purpose in motivating other people, and that's a phenomenal place to be at. I mean, how do you want to move forward with this? There's more that you can achieve.
Yeah, and at this point in my life, helping other people find and live their purpose has kind of become my passion. I recall a quote from Mark Twain, who is a kind of folk author here in the United States, who said that the 2 most important days of our lives are the day that we're born and the day we figure out why.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I speak to groups, I'll ask them this question, and it's funny because when I do this, people, they always get this inquisitive look. It's like, do you have any idea why you were put on this earth? And when you say that to people, they're kind of like, why is he going there? And sometimes I'll even take it a step further and ask people, do you know why you were born now? Why weren't you born 5,000 years ago or, 50,000 years in the future?
Yeah.
There's a reason that we're all born. And I believe that involves finding and living your purpose. And I also believe that we are all destined to live uncommon and extraordinary lives. And obviously, I put that in the title, it's kind of the subtitle of my book. But that has nothing to do with, the kind of job we have, how much money we make, where we live, and all that kind of stuff. We're not all born with the same gifts and talents, but we all have the ability to become the best person that we're capable of becoming. And what I've seen, and maybe you also, The problem with most people is they take an unintentional approach to living their lives. And by living that casual life, their dreams, their goals, their ambitions, whatever you want to call it, becomes a casualty of that unplanned living. And as we just discussed, I've had plenty of time to think about my own death since, I've been battling cancer for 9 years. Yeah. And after I die, I can't imagine standing in the presence of our creator, whoever or whatever you believe that entity to be, and being unable to account for the gifts and the talents that I was born with and that I didn't use to make the world a better place. There's an old Native American Blackfoot proverb here in the US that goes like this. It says, when you were born, the world, or you cried and the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way so that when you die, the world cries and you rejoice. And I really I always remember that. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier about living your life, getting out there and making something happen instead of waiting for life to kind of come to you.
Yeah. I talk about manifesting, which is the same as creating your life because we're co-creating it. And people say, oh, I can't manifest. I've never manifested anything in my life. And I'm like, you've been manifesting since the day you were born. You have just been subconsciously manifesting whatever, very casually, like you said, casual, instead of consciously and purposefully trying to manifest what you want in your life. And people they just go with the flow, don't they? They get in the job, they get in the routine, they live in the house, they see limits to what they can achieve. They think, my reality now, as it is right now, is the way it's always going to be. And they don't look any further than that. And that is such a waste of their potential, that they could be achieving so much, not just for themselves, not just to say, I've got the fancy car or all that kind of achievement, but to actually do something that could make a huge difference to the world, to somebody else's life, but just by not taking life for granted.
Yeah. And, again, I think that kind of goes back to what I just said about, being an uncommon and extraordinary person, because common and ordinary people, they never do anything with their lives. I mean, they never take a chance on their dreams. They never take the risk. There's another old saying that says, the wealthiest places on earth are cemeteries because they're areas rich in businesses never started, books never written, relationships never pursued.
Oh, that's really quite sad, actually.
If you think about that, and we talked about that. You don't want to go to your grave wishing, or it's those things that you didn't do when you're dying that you regret. Yeah. It's rarely the things that you did do or that you did pursue, even if you weren't successful at them.
No.
The things that, hey, I'm interested in that. I want to do that. But they scare you. And I devoted a whole chapter in my book to this one phrase that said, most people think with their fears and their insecurities instead of using their minds. I know I've done that. Yeah. It's like, you know what? I want to do that. Too. That scares me. I'm not going to do it. Then you regret that. So I always tell people, don't do that. If something scares you, you want to do it and it scares you, my recommendation, go do it. Go try it.
Yeah, because it's, there's what you're going to overcome and how you're going to grow by doing that one thing, because it's not going to, once you've done it once, it doesn't scare you again. So there's something bigger that you have to overcome next time. And that's the whole point of growing, isn't it? You can't stay in the same, things that don't grow die. And it's, you have to keep growing.
You do. But I mean, think about how we're wired. Our brains are hardwired to avoid pain and discomfort and to seek pleasure. So to our minds, the status quo is familiar and comfortable and should just be left alone. Sometimes I'll talk about this example of people looking for a new job. We all know folks who are stuck in dead-end positions, should have been working somewhere else years ago, but for some reason they stay put. And I've always wondered why do those people do that? And I started thinking about it, and I came to the conclusion that it's because every time they try to seek new employment, their brain or their mind kicks in and starts pointing out all the reasons that they should just stay where they are. Hey, you're making good money, or you're accustomed to the routines, or the work is easy. And you know what? You go somewhere else, you might not get along with your coworkers at that new company. Whatever the reason, to the brain, a new job presents all types of uncertainty and uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
And so if you're in that position where you would like to find another job, your brain is going to fight you on that. Mm-hmm. And again, it kind of goes back to the problem with most people is they think with those fears and their insecurities instead of using their minds.
Yeah, definitely. It's sad, isn't it? When they could be experiencing so much more, and they never look at the new job, for example, or like in my profession where it's working with people wanting to find their own business, start their own business. Right. The fear of that is even worse because it's completely unknown. It's not just moving to a new career. It's starting something on your own, and you don't have the backup of colleagues and a boss telling you what to do, and you don't have the structure and the foundation in place already. So that is like 3 times scarier. And their brains trying to keep them safe so that they don't have to process new things, and it also makes the brain work less, if that makes sense. Because if the brain's not having to process new information, it's got it easy. It's just sitting back with its feet up, isn't it?
It is, and so I'm going to give you another saying, and I'm really going to date myself now, so please bear with me here. So back in 1976, there was a U.S. gold medal Olympic swimmer by the name of Shirley Babashoff. And she had one of the greatest quotes that I ever heard. And this is what she said. She said, winners think about what they want to happen, and losers think about what they don't want to happen. Mm-hmm. Winners can override their brains, and focus on the things that they want to occur. Whereas losers, they only focus on the negative aspects of competition, and they can't see the positive qualities of pursuing that goal, that dream, that new job, whatever it was. Most people will never get to where they want to be because they won't stop whining and complaining about where they're at. If you want to live an uncommon and extraordinary life, whatever it is, start your own business, write a book, whatever you want to do, the only way to make that happen is to embrace the uncomfortable, to continue to do the things that you don't like and that you don't want to do. And I try to put this in a concept that is easily understood by people. And I'll shut up here in a minute. But if you were to go to a gym and you were to pick up a 10-pound weight and you were to do 10 arm curls, but you didn't find that movement difficult, then your muscle is never going to grow. However, if you go to that same gym, pick out that same 10-pound weight and do arm curls until you exhaust your muscle and you can't do another repetition, then what are you doing? You're stressing that muscle. And as a result, it will grow and it will get stronger. That same tactic works with your brain, works with your mind. Yeah. If you stress your mind by doing those uncomfortable things that we were talking about, it will grow, it will develop, and you will become a stronger and more determined individual.
Yeah. I mean, like a quick experiment that everyone could do right now while listening to the podcast. Think about, if I ask you, what do you want in your future? I bet the first at least 3 things you tell me are things that you don't want. You're not going to say, oh, I want this, I want that. It's probably going to be, I don't want to be living in the same house, or I don't want to be stuck in the same job, or I don't want this. People automatically lead with the things that they don't want. And, looking at law of attraction, you attract things that, you're focusing on. And if you're focusing on the things that are negative, like, the unhealthy environment, for example, and you're thinking about that environment all the time, you're going to get more of that back to you because the universe thinks you're focusing on it for a good reason, because it thinks you like it. So it's like, well, take some more of that then. Here you go. I didn't want that. I didn't want the debt. I didn't want this. I didn't want that. But again, they can't. They have to switch around to purposefully thinking about what they want. And that's I think we're quite conditioned not to ask for things we want anyway. We're raised that way, aren't we? You don't ask for things. In England, we would say, I want never gets. It's a saying.
Yeah. We all want to be successful in life, whatever that is, however you define that. And when I was a young boy, there was a basketball coach at UCLA out in California here in the United States, who was probably the best basketball coach of all times. There may be 1 or 2 more, but he had a definition of success that I really love. And I've never found a better one. And I've certainly looked. And this is what he said. He said, success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing that you did the best to become the best that you're capable of becoming. It doesn't, here's a basketball. It doesn't say anything about winning,
No.
has nothing to do with winning. Are you peaceful? Is your heart content? Is your soul calm? Because you know that you went out and you did the best that you could to become the best person that you were capable of becoming. If you do that, that's success. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be famous. You just have to have peace of mind to know that you did the best job you could do.
Yeah.
It's not complicated.
No, it's not. And like the author guy told you, when you do that, when you find your own success and you're at peace with what you're doing and becoming the best version of yourself, then, in your case, the book will sell.
Right.
Because you're not chasing, you're not focusing on, for example, if you're thinking about, I've got to sell the book, you're focusing on the fact that you haven't sold the book. So that's that's where your focus has gone, to the lack of selling the book.
Exactly. And you look at success and how, that was a definition that I gave. Other people certainly have other definitions.
No, it's a good one though. I like it.
Yeah. Of how they determine that they have been successful and stuff like that. But I always tell people, it's like, success is kind of that stuff done behind the scenes that nobody sees, that makes the competition, whatever that is, going up against another business or, in my case, basketball, makes it easier. And what I found is the vast majority of people aren't willing to put in that amount of time for a potential unknown outcome. Yeah. There's an American football player by the name of Jerry Rice who had another great quote. As you can tell, I'm pretty into quotes. But this is what he said. He said, "Today I will do what others won't, so that tomorrow I can do what others can't."
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in life, you can't be the reason that prevents that achievement. You have to be willing to do the things that are necessary to become great, with the realization that success may never materialize for you. But here's what I'm going to say to people about that. If you have even a small amount of grit to pursue your goals, you'll be so much further ahead than the vast majority of people who never start to chase their dreams. You'll have a better shot of reaching your goals because there'll be so little competition out there. So what I tell people is get out of your way and do what you know you need to do to become successful in your life.
Yeah, I remember seeing like a Facebook picture type thing, and it was about success, and it was saying like at the bottom where most people are because they're not taking the extraordinary, progress or steps. It's busy, it's crowded, but when you start get to the top, people are falling off. So they're not, there's only a few people, a small percentage of people who are willing to put in that extra work, and it's certainly not crowded at the top. There's space for a lot of people, but they just don't want to do it. They don't want to put the hours in. They don't want to put the practice in or the behind the scenes stuff. They only want the upfront, the riches, the rewards. They don't want to be training, 8 hours a day, throwing a basketball into the same net or the hoop, whatever you call it. I don't know.
Right. And that's just it. And I, we talked about our families a little bit earlier, and I have a daughter who you can't tell this by looking at me, but I'm 6'8", and I have a daughter that's 6'2", and actually went to the United States Air Force Academy to play basketball. And I remember the hours and hours and hours in the gymnasium over the summers, putting up thousands of shots a day.
Yeah.
With no guarantee that this was going to pay off or have any kind of, residual positive impact down the road. I mean, for us, it was great because it gave us time to be together as a, father and daughter and to kind of talk about things. But, you're in a hot, humid gymnasium putting up thousands of shots a day in the hope that maybe sometime down the road, you might have the opportunity to make that game-winning shot or be successful or whatever it is. So,
but it's that might, isn't it? If you don't do it, then that might doesn't appear. There's no chance of you maybe finding success if you don't put the work in.
Exactly. And that's something I always tell people. It's like, you think you worked hard today. Well, guess what? And I always felt this when I was playing, in my mind, it's like, man, I'm tired. I want to give up. It's like, no, there's somebody else somewhere else that I'm going to play against next year that's putting in more time, that's working harder than I am. So that was kind of a motivation for me to want to work harder, because there's somebody else out there that I don't know who that person is, they're going to be more successful because they're not quitting. They're not tired, and, kind of the only easy day was yesterday. Today is the, day one, week one mentality. You're starting right from the beginning every single day you get up. But if you do one thing, 1% better every day, think about over the period of a month. Yeah. 30, now you're 30% better, than you were 30 days ago.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect. Well, yeah, there's a lot to think about there, especially motivational. So, I mean, your website is perfect, and your website is motivationalcheck.com. That's right.
Correct.
Okay, good. And I'd also like to put a link in the bio of your book, if that would be all right with you. So people can find that if they're interested. Sure. And where else can they find you? I mean, you do public speaking and stuff. So how can my audience get in touch if they want to find out more about you or maybe work with you?
Sure. The best way to do that is motivationalcheck.com. I mean, my LinkedIn account, my Facebook account, my Twitter account, they're all there. You can leave me a message at motivationalcheck.com. Oh. You can send me an email, through at motivationalcheck@aol.com if you want. But motivationalcheck.com will pretty much get you who I am, how to get a hold of me, and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Terry, for speaking with me today. It's been amazing.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll have to get you on the show again next year when you're feeling much more robust and you're doing really
I would love to. I mean, that's my goal. I mean, every day I pray for that miracle, and you know what? I'm here today, so I'll do the best I can.
We could have a catch up every year, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
Cool. Sounds good to me. All right, Terry, thank you so much for your time. You take care.
Thank you. You do the same.
Wow, that was amazing. The guy has just got so much motivation and stamina and enthusiasm, and it was just great talking to him. And the guy, he's lost his leg, he's got cancer, and he's going through all sorts of stuff, but he's not letting that take control of his life. And that is, wow. I have a lot of respect for Terry. He is great. And I'm definitely going to get him back on the show in 12 months' time just to see how he is and catch up on him and see what amazing stuff has happened with him over the past year. So guys, if you liked this show, please make sure you subscribe and rate and review, please, because it's great for us to find more reach and reach all the people that need to hear the message at the right time. As we said in this interview, when the universe gives you a message, it brings it to you. And this show could be the message that you're looking for. So please subscribe, rate and review. And in the meantime, I'm going to send you lots of love until we speak again. So have a fantastic day. Take care, and remember to be happy, inspired, and motivated. Thank you for listening to the Happy, Inspired, Motivated podcast. I'll be back next week bringing more meditation, mindset, and motivation for your happy and successful life. To find out more about our community, go to tarachatzakis.com/happy, inspired, motivated.